Yeah, I got her. But I think I had help because she's been a little tired today.
Yeah.
Hi, honey. How you doing?
Hi, I'm doing okay. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. Just, I'm tired like you, but, we've had kind of a big day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have we?
I don't know. I feel pretty tired.
Okay.
But anyways, are you ready to learn more about the Bible?
Yeah, I guess. You're going to teach me about the Bible?
Yes, I'm going to teach you about the Bible. Of course I'm going to teach you about that. What do you think?
I think you're going to say some ridiculous shit, but I'm here for it.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm kind of off the cuffing it here because I know this particular story so well.
Okay.
So anyways, last time, in case y'all don't remember, Jesus had his big dramatic moment. Like he put his back of his hand to his forehead being like, why don't you guys hate your parents and your siblings and like give away all your shit so that you can be my disciple? Like, why can't y'all do that? Is what he said last time. And this time, Jesus, it was something that I mentioned last time. Jesus is going to raise Lazarus.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. So listen, it gets a little salacious. Okay. So first off, y'all have to know that Lazarus is Jesus's boyfriend. Okay. Like if y'all had any kind of curiosity about whether or not Jesus was LGBTQ plus, like affirming or in that particular group, this is the story to prove it. Okay. Look, supposedly this Lazarus dude dies. Okay. And his sisters say, hey, Jesus, that dude that you love, wink, wink, he's so sick. Come over here and make him feel better. And Jesus was like, I guess, negging him a little bit, being like, you know what? I'll come in a few days, if y'all know what I mean. And so, like, after a little bit, he goes over there and they're like, oh, no. And Jesus is like, look, guys, I got it. I'll just give him a handy. He'll pop right up.
What?
And Jesus went and just, did his little magic with the dude's rod and woke him right up. And that's how Jesus raised Lazarus from the dead. He gave him a handy. It's probably after a massage. Like, probably massaged him really good. And then it was like, turn over, big boy.
This is not how the story goes.
You mean to tell me that the raising of Lazarus is not about a salacious massage parlor?
Yes, I absolutely mean to tell you that.
I mean, I would wake up from the dead if that happened. Wink, wink.
You're ridiculous. Can we just read the Bible?
Giggity ridiculous. I mean, I guess we can read the Bible if we have to.
I mean, yeah, we kind of need to.
Okay. What's up, heathens? How y'all doing? So apparently this was not a salacious visit to Jesus's massage parlor.
No.
And the sisters were not just sort of passing on flirtations from Lazarus.
No.
You just see Lazarus calling Jesus up, being like, oh no, I'm about to die unless you come and give me a massage.
That's not what happened.
And Jesus is like, fuck, I'm working, bro. I can't give you a bro job right now.
No.
No?
No. I would understand if everybody has already left.
Hello, everybody that's still here. The 3 people that are just as pervy as I am.
All right, can we continue? Like, can we just go ahead and read the story?
Okay.
What?
I was just going to say, I don't see how you can not be pervy while reading the Bible. I mean, like, Utah removed it from the shelves for being like too salacious. So,
I mean, that was the fault of their own new law of banning everything.
Hey, you know what? If the shoe fits, take it off of the shelf. That's what I'm saying.
But not every single thing in the Bible is pervy. You make it that way.
Do I?
Yes.
I feel like the Bible makes it that way on
sometimes,
purpose.
But not all the times. You make it that way all the time when it's not that way.
Look, Moses smashed his rod on a rock. Like, there's multiple ways. Like, I've heard it both ways.
No, you haven't heard it. The only reason you've heard it both ways is because you've said it.
Still, no. I've heard it both ways.
No, you haven't. You made up one of the ways.
Okay, we can read now.
Okay, so we're on John chapter 11, and this is kind of a short week this week. We just have the story about Lazarus.
Right, and keep in mind this is supposed to be a refutation or like a complete like rewrite of the Lazarus from Luke. This is a refutation,
which we heard last week.
Right, this is a response that is saying, nope, you're wrong about Lazarus. This is the real message about Lazarus.
Yeah, so he's it doesn't say, no, you're wrong, and this is what really happened. It does not say that. It just tells a different story about what happened with Lazarus.
Well, I mean, it does say, but here, so you do have to make an argument that it's a response to the Lazarus in Luke, but the argument for that is that this story totally reverses everything that the story, to the T, everything that the story in Luke is, like the message of it communicates. And so that's how we know that one's based off the other.
Okay, which is fine. But again, it's a story about Lazarus. It's told differently.
It is.
Okay. But it doesn't say, no, what's written in Luke is wrong, and this is what really happened. So right. It doesn't actually say that.
I didn't say it said that, though. I was just saying that this is, as we're reading it, keep in mind that this comes after the other.
This was written after, and
right.
it's the Lazarus story from a different perspective.
Okay.
That's what we can prove, because it doesn't say what Luke said was wrong, and this is what really happened.
Well, I mean, it's either Luke is what happened, or this is what happened. So it's...
I agree, both can't be true.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay. So Jesus is still in Perea, right?
Yeah.
And we're going to start off where he hears about what's going on with Lazarus, who is in Jerusalem, not Perea, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now a man named Lazarus was sick. He was from Bethany, the village of Mary and her sister Martha. This Mary, whose brother Lazarus now lay sick, was the same one who poured perfume on the Lord and wiped his feet with her hair. So the sisters sent word to Jesus, Lord, the one you love is sick. When he heard this, Jesus said, the sickness will not end in death. No, it is for God's glory, so that God's Son may be glorified through it. So it's clear that Lazarus' sisters knew that Jesus and Lazarus had a close relationship.
Really close.
We don't know how close, but he said they call him the one you love. They don't say, our brother Lazarus is sick. Will you come help?
Right.
They say the one you love. So we know that Jesus and Lazarus have some sort of very close relationship. And Jesus assures them that Lazarus is not going to die. Now, Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. So when he heard that Lazarus was sick, he stayed where he was 2 more days. And then he said to his disciples, let us go back to Judea. My argument is he must have not loved them that much because he didn't go right away. Of course, he's saying he knows that it's not going to end in death. So it doesn't matter if he waits 2 days.
Well, yeah, I mean, he has to wait in order for the miracle to happen and convince people. So that's why it's saying, oh, this sickness, God's glory is going to, come through it, or is going to be made known.
I understand. I'm just saying, must not have loved him too much. If something were happening with you, I would leave wherever I was immediately and come to you.
Yeah.
So, because I'm not ridiculous. Anyway, but Rabbi, they said, a short while ago, the Jews there tried to stone you, and yet you are going back? Jesus answered, are there not 12 hours of daylight? Anyone who walks in the daytime will not stumble, for they see by this world's light. It is when a person walks at night that they stumble, for they have no light. This is fucking dumb. People get stoned during the day. But anyway.
Well, yeah.
I know that that's not what he means.
And also walking at night would have been a bit more treacherous in the first century, considering there's no street lights or anything like that. So, I mean, I think the illusion that he's making here is that the Sanhedrin, or the Jews that want to stone him, don't have the light because they don't believe in him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
After he said this, he went on to tell them, our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but I am going there to wake him up. His disciples replied, Lord, if he sleeps, he will get better.
And then Jesus goes, holy fuck, you're stupid.
The disciples have not proven to be very bright. Just in the Bible, they're kind of made out to be a little dumb.
Yeah, because they're representative of the Jewish people. And God is, the authors of the Gospels are basically calling the Jewish people dumb.
Yeah, I mean, that's how they're portraying them.
Yeah.
As kind of dumb. Okay, so Jesus had been speaking of his death, but his disciples thought he meant natural sleep. So then he told them plainly, Lazarus is dead, and for your sake I am glad I was not there, so that you may believe, but let us go to him.
I can just imagine this scene right here because it's like Jesus is speaking poetically. It's like Lazarus has fallen asleep. And one of the disciples speaks up is like, well, I mean, if he's just asleep, he'll wake up, right? And Jesus just gives him
He'll
that
get
look.
better.
That look like, what the fuck? Lazarus is dead.
But yeah, and I think it's weird because Jesus is telling his own disciples that it's good that this happened so that they may believe. But they should already believe if they're disciples. You know what I mean? Like, this is weird. I don't understand, but I don't think he's only talking about them. I think he's talking about everybody. So he's going to show himself, I guess. I don't know. Not in a pervy way. I feel like I need to clarify.
Yeah.
Then Thomas, also known as Didymus in Greek, I guess that's his Greek name, said to the rest of the disciples, let us also go that we may die with him. Lazarus is already dead. You're not going to die. I don't.
Well, true. I mean, as far as like this making sense on its own in part of this conversation, it doesn't make a lot of sense. But if you think about it in light of like baptism and what Jesus's death and resurrection represents, or resurrection in general represents in this particular instance, that there's the whole idea that when you get baptized and everything like that, you share in the death of Jesus and his resurrection.
But they're not talking about Jesus.
I know that they're not talking about Jesus, but they're talking about resurrection. And so I think that is probably what's being alluded to here, is this sharing in the death and resurrection.
Okay. I don't think they're talking about resurrection here. They're talking about death, but I mean, okay, I don't read it that way. Mm-hmm. Because Lazarus is already dead. I don't know what they're talking about here because it just makes no sense. May we die with him? Die with why? Why would you die? Lazarus is already dead. Why would you need to die? It just does not make sense because we know the story that Lazarus is going to be resurrected, but they don't know. And so this makes no sense. Like they wouldn't know.
Yeah, they wouldn't.
It just makes no sense to me. I mean, not as far as something actually happening. If an author is writing this story that never happened, the author would know, right? So the author writes it in as some sort of foreshadowing, but the disciples would not have known.
Right. It's definitely foreshadowing.
On his arrival, Jesus found that Lazarus had already been in the tomb for 4 days. Now Bethany was less. That's interesting.
I think this is just a typo in the book.
What?
Oh, well, the way that it's worded on my copy over here, it says now Bethany.
I'm talking about the sentence prior. Lazarus had already been in the tomb for 4 days. He waited. I guess it took a long fucking time for them to get there.
I guess.
Because he waited 2 days. When they contacted him, Lazarus was still alive. Mm-hmm. He waited 2 days. So I guess he could have died this. I have no idea. It's just the timing seems weird.
Lazarus was down with the sickness.
I guess so. Okay. Now Bethany was less than 2 miles from Jerusalem, and many Jews had come to Martha and Mary to comfort them in the loss of their brother. When Martha heard that Jesus was coming, she went out to meet him, but Mary stayed at home. Lord, Martha said to Jesus, if you had been here, my brother would not have died, but I know that even now God will give you whatever you ask. Jesus said to her, your brother will rise again. Martha answered, I know he will rise again in the resurrection at the last day. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. The one who believes in me will live, even though they die, and whoever lives by believing in me will never die. Do you believe this? Yes, Lord, she replied. I believe that you are the Messiah, the Son of God, who is to come into the world.
That's not what I fucking asked, is it? I mean, she affirmed the parts that she believed in, but what she didn't affirm was like, whoever lives by believing in me will never die. It's like, I believe that you're the Messiah and the Son of God. Like,
but I mean,
believe that.
Messiah. I mean, doesn't that...
Well, I mean, the Messiah was supposed to come and, save the people in some kind of way.
And deliver them.
Right.
And so for whoever lives by believing in me will never die. That's what Messiah means. That's what the word means.
Well, I mean, it means savior, but it's like, how are you going to save? Like, how are you going to be the savior? And there's like multiple interpretations as to how you can be the savior.
Like multiple interpretations now or multiple interpretations then? Because I feel like then it was pretty well understood what was meant. Oh,
well, no, actually, I don't think that it was. In the first century, there was multiple different ideas about how the Messiah was to save. Like what, obviously the Gospels here are working with the idea of the everlasting life and saving in a more celestial and spiritual way. But the Sanhedrin, the ones that, are obviously the villains in this particular story, they're the ones that believe in a more military Messiah that's supposed to come in and save the Jewish people by defeating like the Romans and taking back their country and everything like that. So,
well, sure, but they were still Jewish. They were Jewish, so they believed in a Jewish version. This is not like the Jewish Christian idea is different from the Jewish idea distinctly. Well, so you can't really compare it to the Jewish version.
Well, but I mean, the Jewish version and the Jewish Christian version, they're both Jewish. They're just different sects, and one sect developed into Christianity.
Right, but they're the earliest Jewish Christians. They're a different religion. They're not Jews.
Well, I mean, they eventually developed into a separate religion, but prior to the development of Jewish Christians, there were multiple different sects of Jewish people that adhered to different ideas about the interpretations of the Old Testament. One of those interpretations included like what would eventually become the Jewish Christians and develop into Christianity, while the other ones were more orthodox, which would have included a warlike Messiah that they were expecting. So, I mean, prior to the development of Jewish Christians or Jewish Christians coming on the scene, there were definitely multiple different ideas about who the Messiah was to be, and it just so happened that one developed into Christianity.
But I think they all agreed that the Messiah, whoever it was and however they displayed themselves, was to deliver the Jewish people, deliver them from and save them.
Right.
So I think they all had, even though they might have thought this savior was going to be different characteristics, it still didn't matter. They understood the Messiah to be someone who was delivering them.
Well, right, but the more orthodox version of the Messiah interpretation didn't include like living forever or never dying or anything like that. Like it was that was actually something that was introduced through the mystery religions when that started to affect Judaism and then eventually Christianity. So, I mean, definitely like they understood the Messiah to be a savior because that's what the word means. But it's more, specifically how is the Messiah supposed to save the people? Obviously, the sect that eventually developed into Christians, they were promised everlasting life.
Well, sure. Anybody who would be following Jesus at that time was that kind of person. So I think anybody that was following Jesus at this time that said the word Messiah, that's what they meant.
Okay.
Would they not mean that?
No, I mean, so I was just trying to be a bit facetious earlier and like, that's not exactly what Jesus was asking. I do agree that the characters in this story right now would have been affirming the more gospel version of the Messiah, being that acknowledging him as the Messiah meant everlasting life. I was just trying to be funny about it and having Jesus in the moment being like, fuck, that's not what I asked exactly, but okay, is kind of what I was going for. Like, I didn't mean to go into like a deep, just, philosophical discussion on first century Judaism.
Okay. I mean, I understand. I feel like her saying, I believe you are the Messiah answers the question he asked.
It does. I was playing off of the whole, that's not exactly what I asked kind of thing. And
yeah.
It's like,
it's weird because usually that's how women feel when they ask men questions.
I was tapping into the many conversations we've had, honey.
Yeah, but this is a woman. She would have answered his question.
This was written by a man, most likely.
That's true.
So I'm just saying.
Anyway, after she said this, so she says, yes, I believe you're the Messiah who is to come into the world. After she had said this, she went back and called her sister Mary aside. The teacher is here, she said, and is asking for you. I didn't see him ask for her, did you?
I did not. He definitely didn't say, show me Mary.
When Mary heard this, she got up quickly and went to him. Now Jesus had not yet entered the village, but was still at the place where Martha had met him. When the Jews who had been with Mary in the house comforting her noticed how quickly she got up and went out, they followed her, supposing she was going to the tomb to mourn there. When Mary reached the place where Jesus was and saw him, she fell at his feet and said, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. When Jesus saw her weeping, and the Jews who had come along with her also weeping, he was deeply moved in spirit and troubled. Where have you laid him? He asked. Come and see, Lord, they replied. Jesus wept. Do you know how many times I have heard when people ask, hey, what's your favorite verse in the Bible? Like, what's your favorite Bible verse?
Jesus cried like a bitch.
Jesus wept. I have heard so many people say that exact passage right there. It's the shortest passage in the Bible. 2 words. The shortest one in the Bible.
Right.
And many people cite this. Jesus wept.
But I mean, so like he asked, where have you laid him? And he goes and he starts crying.
Yeah, his friend died.
Well, but I mean, logically in this story though, that doesn't make sense because before, Jesus is supposed to be omniscient, right? All knowing and everything like that. When Mary was like, oh, hey, my brother's down with the sickness. He was like, well, he's not going to die. So, and then he comes here and it's like, where have you laid him?
But I mean, he knew he was going to die. We know he knew he was going to die.
Right. So why is he sad? Why is he weeping?
Well, I mean, I don't know if you've been to a funeral, but even if you're not close with the person, when you see what the people who were close to the person are going through and the pain that they're feeling, if you have any kind of empathy at all toward other humans, that can be emotional and sad because they're suffering and you see their suffering and that hurts.
Well, yeah.
So, which is what what they've very well, actually, they've done this very well described is empathy. That's empathy, honey.
I mean, I know what empathy is. I have plenty of empathy. And I mean, I don't feel like this is a normal, funeral procession or anything like that.
It doesn't have to be. I'm not talking about a funeral procession. It doesn't have to be a funeral. Just when a family loses someone and they're sad and they cry and you care about those people and you see them suffering, it can be emotional and make you sad and cry. This is the most normal thing that's in the fucking Bible.
Well, I mean, it's not normal to me because, if I go to a funeral, I know that the person's dead. Jesus,
he knows the person's
he's about
dead.
to go in there, jerk him off, and get him up.
No.
Well, okay, he's about to go and resurrect him.
So?
He knows that Lazarus is coming back from the dead. He knows that, that while these people are sad now, they're about to be very happy because Lazarus is coming back from the dead. Lazarus is not dead because Jesus is going to resurrect him.
But Lazarus is dead and those people are suffering.
I get that those people are suffering.
And that moved him. This is the most normal thing in the entire Bible.
See, I just don't think that it logically makes sense for him to start weeping because it's not like he got there and when he saw her weeping, he started to weep. It was he saw her weeping and then he's like, where's the body at? And they're like, come and look at it. And then he starts to cry.
Okay. So, I mean, who are you to say when it's okay for somebody to grieve and when it's not? This person should have cried earlier.
No, I'm not saying that he should have cried earlier. I'm just saying that it's
You did. That's exactly what you said. He should have cried when she came up and was crying.
If it was due to her crying, I would think that, when Jesus saw her weeping, he started to weep. I would expect that as far as the story goes.
When Jesus saw her weeping and the Jews who had come along with her also weeping, he was deeply moved in spirit and troubled. And then just a couple lines later, Jesus wept. It literally says he was deeply moved and troubled.
Right, after a short conversation about where he was laid to rest.
A 5-word sentence. Where have you laid him? And then he cries after she has a 4-word answer. So it's not like It's not like a long conversation and passage of time. It's literally fewer than 10 words, and he cried.
Okay.
And it says the reason that he cried was because he saw her and everyone who came along with her weeping.
Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make a big deal out of this.
I just feel like this is the most normal thing in here.
I mean, I guess I just don't understand the weeping, even if other people are weeping, if you know that you're about to go and resurrect the dude. I guess obviously I'm not in that situation. I will never be in that situation.
I mean, nobody has ever been in that situation. Not in reality, you know?
Yeah.
Okay, so then the Jews said, "See how he loved him." But some of them said, "Could not he who opened the eyes of the blind man have kept this man from dying?" I really do think it's a little weird how everybody has been approaching him like, motherfucker, if you were here, he wouldn't have died. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like it's kind of one of those things where they're questioning. You're questioning God, Jesus, God. You're questioning, and that's a bad thing. And I feel like that's what they're doing to him. I feel like they're challenging him.
Yeah.
Why weren't you here? If you were here, he wouldn't have died. You can open blind men's eyes. Why couldn't you have saved this guy? Like, I don't know. If I was Jesus, I'd be kind of pissed.
I mean, yeah, he probably was.
I mean, it doesn't say
that he was.
I don't think he was. I'm just saying I would be. Okay, so Jesus, once more deeply moved, came to the tomb. It was a cave with a stone laid across the entrance. Sounds familiar.
Yep.
"Take away the stone," he said. "But Lord," said Martha, the sister of the dead man, "by this time there is a bad odor, for he has been there 4 days." Then Jesus said, "Did I not tell you that if you believe, you will see the glory of God?" So they took away the stone. Then Jesus looked up and said, "Father, I thank you that you have heard me. I knew that you always hear me, but I said this for the benefit of the people standing here, that they may believe that you sent me." When he had said this, Jesus called out in a loud voice, "Lazarus, come out." The dead man came out, his hands and feet wrapped with strips of linen and a cloth around his face. Jesus said to them, "Take off the grave clothes and let him go."
Booyah. They wept no more.
I wonder how, because didn't they wrap bodies better than just laying a sheet over them?
I mean, yeah, but
how would he have walked out all wrapped up in his?
Well, I'm guessing I don't know, but I mean, obviously his individual appendages were wrapped up. So I guess I don't know if they completely mummy wrapped them, huh?
It's just convenient for the story.
Yeah.
I feel like that's not how they would have done it, but
I mean, there's that whole Shroud of Turin thing where Jesus' body was wrapped up in that. I mean, it was just whole, he was just whole wrapped up in it. Not exactly tucked in tight. They don't have to worry about him getting out or anything. Normally. In these two cases, they do, I guess. Yeah.
Okay, so the Sanhedrin doesn't like this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about it. Therefore, many of the Jews who had come to visit Mary and had seen what Jesus did believed in him. But some of them went to the Pharisees and told them what Jesus had done. Then the chief priests and the Pharisees called a meeting of the Sanhedrin.
Well, I do want to point out right here that this is the part right there where it's a total reversal of the story in Luke, because in Luke, Jesus says that not even a resurrected man would convince people of the Son of God. And so no amount of miracles will convince people about Jesus's divinity. And in this one, it's the complete a total 180, complete opposite message. A resurrected man immediately converts a bunch of people.
Well, and that was the intent.
Right.
That's why he waited and let Lazarus die, and he knew Lazarus was going to die.
Right.
And he said, this is a great opportunity for me to show you so you will believe. And he literally tells them, in the story,
right,
the disciples, he tells them, "I'm glad this happened. So, to give you an opportunity to believe."
Right.
So
even though they already believed in him being
Even though
Messiah.
they already believed. But the getting people to believe through this miracle was the whole point in this story.
Yeah, and the whole point in the Luke story is that
it wouldn't change people's minds.
Right.
But some of them, we already got that. What are we accomplishing? They asked. This is the Sanhedrin meeting. "Here is this man performing many signs. If we let him go on like this, everyone will believe in him. And then the Romans will come and take away both our temple and our nation." I don't know why that would happen, but okay. Then one of them named Caiaphas.
I thought it was Caiaphas.
Caiaphas.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. who was high priest that year, spoke up. You know nothing at all. You do not realize that it is better for you that one man die for the people than that the whole nation perish. He did not say this on his own, but as high priest that year, he prophesied that Jesus would die for the Jewish nation, and not only for that nation, but also for the scattered children of God, to bring them together and make them one, so that from that day on, they plotted to take his life. Therefore, Jesus no longer moved about publicly among the people of Judea. Instead, he withdrew to a region near the wilderness to a village called Ephraim, where he stayed with his disciples. It's weird if they knew where he was. Why didn't they just go get him?
I mean, yeah. Why didn't they? It's like, go get Jesus and fucking stone his ass for doing magical shit.
Okay, so that's all for today.
Okay.
Kind of short. We only had the Lazarus story. I think they did that because the next part is the final journey. Right. So we're going to go back into Matthew and Mark. I think we might have some Luke. Yeah, we do have some Luke. And we're going to have some more information from the Pharisees. The disciples are going to start to question Jesus.
It's the final countdown.
It is. Jesus is going to bless the children. Bless all the children, Lord Jesus.
Yep. He blesses them a little too hard nowadays.
At least the people that lead in his name do. We're going to come about on a rich young man. So we're gonna meet a rich young man and talk to him. Mm-hmm. Jesus is going to talk about the love of possessions, and we know kind of how he feels about that, right?
Yeah.
And he's going to talk about forsaking earthly attachments. He's going to foretell about death, right?
Ooh.
James and John are going to make a request. So we're going to find out what that is. And Jesus is going to teach his followers about humility, a lesson that probably many of his followers today could learn from. So we'll see we're going to see what that's about. Some dude is going to receive Jesus. I'm sure you'll have a wonderful story about how that happens.
Face down, ass up.
Another blind man is going to be healed. So we're going to talk about that. Then we're going to have a parable about the 10 minas, right? And mina is about 3 months' wages.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So we're going to have a parable about that. Jesus is going to talk with Mary.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wait, sorry, my book did a weird thing. My ebook here. Jesus talked to Mary today. Blind parable. Okay, here we are. So sorry about that. And then Jesus is going to travel toward Jerusalem, and the chief priests and Pharisees are going to plan his arrest, and they're going to do it like at a really Jewish time. So it's kind of rude. They're going to do it on a holiday, on Passover.
Mm-hmm.
Mary is going to anoint Jesus. And then there's a plot to kill Lazarus, which is really fucked up, right?
The fuck?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're upset. Apparently they think he's a zombie, and the zombies have to be killed straight through the head, because if you try any other way, they're just going to get back up.
Make sure you double tap.
Mm-hmm.
It's the only way to be sure.
Yeah. So that's what we're going to do next week. We actually even have some in John. We have some from all of the Gospels next week in our reading.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I'm ready for it.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Okay, well, if you heathens want to learn all about the final countdown, then you'll need to tune in next week. Until then, if you will, please make sure you smash that like button and leave us a comment down below with what you thought about today's Bible study. And
don't forget to stand up and use your voice.
bye, heathens.
Bye, y'all.